Hey, what's going on, everybody? It is Aaron Trevino here with another episode with Robert from San Antonio. How you doing, Robert?
Doing great. I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I know we've had this in the works for a little bit. We talked last week, and it's great to have you on the show.
Yeah, I'm super excited. Super excited.
Yeah, absolutely, Robert. So, for those of us who aren't familiar with you, could you introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, Robert Elder. I've been in the real estate game for 30 years now. My fiance and I run a very highly successful real estate team. That's actually a small team of three here in San Antonio, Texas. We joined forces almost 4 years ago, and we definitely sell well over about 125 homes a year. And we do have particular price points and segments of the marketplace that we're in, but we're ranked in the top 10 in the city, so we're definitely very active in the business.
All right, that's great to hear. So for those of us who aren't too familiar, with San Antonio, could you kind of maybe talk a bit about what the economy is like there, and the market?
Yeah, the market here is outrageously strong. In most price points, there's under a 2 month availability of homes, which makes, if you're on the buyer side, boy, it's like ridiculously competitive. We deal with a lot of homes in the gentrification area of San Antonio, and that has actually seen a little bit of a slowdown. It has started to pick up again, but definitely during the throngs of the pandemic, it slowed down, and we saw like so much traffic going up to suburbia and even beyond suburbia in North San Antonio. It's not uncommon to have a half a million or $600,000 house that's perfect going into a multiple offer situation. The economy is still super strong here in San Antonio. Texas as a whole is seeing a lot of people coming in from other states during this big change that we've been in since 2020 with the pandemic. So we thought it was going to be a relatively slow real estate market, but man, it's been quite the opposite. We closed out with a little over 44 million in sales last year.
Quite the opposite, huh? Yeah, absolutely. I'm just curious more about you. Are you originally from San Antonio, or were you from somewhere else and moved there?
Yeah, originally from Laredo, Texas. Moved here to finish up my last 2 years of high school because my parents were already living here, and my mom was not practicing real estate at that moment. I moved back. No, she was actually. She had just started, and then I moved back to Laredo for a short period just to kind of do some college, which ultimately I dropped out of college. I just never was the collegiate type. I was more the entrepreneurial spirit. So that led me to open up several other businesses during my life. But I was a licensed agent with Coldwell Banker for about 6 months in Laredo, and then I moved back to San Antonio after that. And I was invited to be a backup agent to the backup agent at a luxury development here in San Antonio. And within a year and a half, I was outselling everyone in that place, including my mom. She was an agent in there as well. Yeah, so I started young and got real aggressive real quick.
Sounds like you were hungry for it at a young age.
For sure.
Absolutely. So from Laredo, moved to San Antonio a little while later. What got you in, aside from your family? What got you interested in real estate, or what do you like about real estate?
More than anything else, I was probably interested in sales more than anything else. Just being totally transparent, it wasn't any one particular thing. The, the businesses that we had back in Laredo, my family had a very high fashion women's boutique, and then we had another store that catered towards doctors and medical professionals in Mexico. And I mean, I was running the shoe department at 13 and 14 years old. So I was always used to interacting with people and talking to people and trying to convert and close, sales. Um, Real estate was an avenue that I found open after my mom, said, "Hey, why don't you come up here? There's an opportunity for you to work in this group." And I mean, honestly, I didn't even own a car at the time. I was dating someone. I would borrow her car when I'd go to work. I would talk about broke. I was dead broke, and it was quite interesting. I mean, within like my first year, I did like 8 million in sales. So it was life changing. So that's more sales, I think, than real estate specific. After that, I'll be honest. I mean, I've owned a garbage company, I've owned a recycle facility, I've owned a porta potty company, all huge businesses that I built and sold. I was partners in. But my God-given talent is real estate. It took me years to realize that. I live and breathe this business, and it's fun. It's fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Well said. I'm also interested kind of from a mindset perspective as well. You were borrowing the car. It didn't even belong to you. You were, having to get to work. You were dead broke, as you were saying, and then you jumped to 8 million in sales. What click, what sort of mindset shift did you have?
You know, this is one thing I learned from my stepdad. You never judge a book by its cover. My very first clients, Von Dixon, those people, they pulled up in an old Suburban, and they basically bought a property cash. They were in cutoff shorts and flip flops. You would have never have thought they had two nickels to rub together, but they bought I think it was like $600,000 or $700,000 house cash. That was my first transaction. And from there, it was almost like the Ferrari going into sixth gear. Like, okay, I did this, boom, let's go. And it was a massive change for my thinking that just made all the subsequent ones much, much easier to handle, because I knew, I'm like, okay, well, I can do this one, I can do the other ones.
Yeah, that's a great analogy to have, talking about the
Right.
Ferrari and, kicking it into high gear, and, you kind of have that confidence.
Right. It was fun.
Yeah, absolutely. So from that point, you were kind of off to the races. How were you able to basically kind of scale up to being dead broke, the 8 million, and then scaling into, what you've done until now?
So it's funny because I wish what I know now, I wish I knew back then. For me, I always knew my numbers. I knew that at that time, it took me 35 interactions with persons to make one deal. My average ticket at that time was, I want to say it was like 564,000, something around that number. It's been obviously many years. And so it's like, I knew at least that much, that I had to track things. And as I scaled year over year, it's funny, my business didn't ridiculously increase until like the 09, 10, when the market really, really shifted. That's when I doubled my business. And then I never went back to those numbers, market crash numbers. I always grew from there. Part of it was definitely a lot of the agents got out of the business, because at that point someone moved their cheese. So it was harder to get business during that time. But for me, man, I just doubled down, and it was awesome. I thought it was the easiest thing in the world, to be honest with you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you even said it. Maybe it was attributed also because a lot of the other agents, left because someone moved their cheese. But that's scary for people, and it kind of seems like where others were potentially afraid, you kind of dug in.
Yeah, no, for sure. Change is good. I mean, you don't progress without changing. So, I mean, if you stay stagnant all the time, I'm sorry, you're not growing. And I'm a risk taker. I love to take risks. I mean, I've had millions, I've lost millions. Had the Ferrari, don't have the Ferrari. Had the $1 million house, didn't have the $1 million house. But none of those things would have ever happened had I not taken some massive, massive risks. The interesting thing with real estate is it puts you around so many people, so many walks of life that you could meet and interact with that far go beyond just real estate as a whole. I mean, my first business idea was because of someone I sold a house to. And we just started talking about it. And it turned out that I knew a lot of builders, and he used to own a porta potty company in another market. And he's like, dude, you know all these people, you're in the middle of it, why don't you start it? And that literally was the idea. 2 weeks later, because I didn't have all the funds to be able to do that, I had to find an angel investor who was another client that I'd sold a house to. We started that company, and 7 years to the day, we sold it for almost $5 million to a big national company. So many realtors get into this business just thinking, hey, all I do is sell houses. That's it. I'm just going to sell a house. Forget that, man. You got to look at like the entirety of everything, because there could be some amazing, amazing opportunities sitting in front of you that, if you don't have your little antennas up, you're not going to pick up on them. But at least that's how my mind operates.
Yeah, no, absolutely, Robert. I'm just curious as well in terms of the mindset. Why do you think that people kind of have those that tunnel vision that you're talking about?
Okay. I think a lot of people put limitations on where they can go with this business. This business is by far, there are limitless opportunities. I mean, honestly, just limitless opportunities in this business. And I remember years ago, I was next to someone that, and God bless him, it was, no dig on him, but it was like we were going through our vision boards, and my income on there was, to make $1 million that year. And his income was 100,000. And I was like, gosh, dude, you're not thinking big enough. I'm
Mm.
like, you can make that in a month. you know, you can make twice that in a month if you want. You can make whatever you want in a month. But I think people get hung up on limitations in their mind, and they just need to just blow it open, and you can just really have almost anything that you want and desire.
Sure, sure, absolutely. It's it can be tough for some people, especially if you're at zero. It's hard to, picture yourself going from 0 to 8 million, right?
Right. No, it is for sure. There's some amazing agents in this marketplace. There's one in particular. I mean, he's up in the 70 million range. Granted, he has a huge team, but 4 years ago, he was not even in real estate. And so it's like kudos to him because he didn't let any limitations, tell him, no, you can only sell X amount your first year. You can only sell 3 houses, a month or something like that. This guy he ran with it. He listened to a new model, a business model, and is killing it.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting though because he didn't originally start out in real estate. It sounds like he was in something else.
Yeah, like not even remotely in the industry.
Fair enough. So for you, what kind of what would you say makes a good salesman?
Listening to people. Yeah, instead of talking so much, listening. I do way more when I'm with a client. I'm listening way more than I'm talking. And I think a lot of people love to hear themselves talk. And in sales, if you want to be really, really efficient and effective, you need to do more of this than this for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. That can be crucial, especially when you're trying to, someone comes to you with a problem and you're trying to assess it and give them the solution.
I tell, I used to mentor a lot of newer agents, and I used to actually be on the Keller Williams Ignite teacher program. And there's two things that I told new agents. I'm like, we're not in the business of selling real estate. Let me just put that out there. And they're like, what do you mean? We're in the lead generation business. That's what we do. The real estate is just a byproduct of our lead generation efforts. That's it. I mean, you can know every house available in San Antonio or your market or whatever market any of your listeners are listening to. You could know appliances and the best of everything and the tiles and this and that and the other. But if you don't have anyone to sell that stuff to, what do you have? Not a damn thing.
Yeah.
Not a damn thing. That's the unfortunate part. With some people get so wound up with, I need to make sure that my contracts are perfect. I need to make sure that I know this. They sit there and they're like, ready, aim, ready, aim, ready, aim. They never fire. It's like ready, aim, ready, aim. I'm not ready yet. Hold on. I need to learn this. Go out and do. Just do. You'll figure it out. I was about to say a cuss word because I do cuss, but I didn't. I caught
Yeah. No problem, Robert. Yeah, there's a lot to be said for that. Just kind of you can read the books, you can listen to other people, but at the end of the day, it just comes down to you just getting your hands dirty and doing it.
For sure. I will say this also. I mean, this is my 30th year. I will never claim to know everything about this industry. And Stephanie and I make it a point. We'll spend like at bare minimum about 10 grand a year learning new things. 2 years ago, we went and did an NLP event over in California, and we were gone for 19 days. And we made a little bit of a vacation out of it, but all in all, I think that was almost $20,000 that training seminar. I mean, but for me, it's an investment in my business, how I think, how I operate. So that investment in my mind, I've probably made a couple $100,000, because of what I learned at that event.
Yeah, that's an interesting distinction there. You're talking kind of the the connection between money and time, right? Because to someone else who barely made $20,000, they would assume, well, why would I spend $20,000 on something that I can't physically see if it's all in your mind, right?
Right, right. Money and time is a big one for me. Case in point, we just remodeled a house in this country club that we live in now, and I spent probably $8,000 or $9,000 on these super high end Bosch appliances. Like I wanted really killer appliances in our kitchen, and the microwave stopped working a couple days ago. And so, what does Best Buy tell me I have to do? They need to tell me I'm calling this 800 number. So yesterday I was on a phone call for, I think it was almost 35 minutes on hold. Finally, I hung up. I had better stuff to do. Today I was on hold for about 20 minutes. Finally hung up, and I called my appliance guy. I'm like, just come fix it. Just charge me, fix it. I'm off to other things, because being on hold for an hour of my life at what I bill an hour, it wasn't worth it. I'd rather just pay someone to fix it than worry about the warranty. So yeah, that like, I don't wash my cars. I don't cut the grass. I mean, at the end of the day, I might do a few minor things that I just enjoy doing, but beyond that, I hire everything out.
Absolutely. It sounds like, not only, part of operating something, whatever it may be, is also knowing when to delegate.
Mm-hmm. Yep, for sure. We have a new hire within our group, and she's doing a TC, transaction coordinating, and then also just kind of admin role for us. And while I usually am just always 100% out in the field, like my cars or my offices, and she's my command center person. If I meet someone, I'm texting her the business card. I'm like, hey, put this person on our email blast or our drip or this or that and the other. She's my extension, so I can duplicate myself. I've never been like amazingly well at delegating. It's still a trait that I struggle with. But when you have someone as great as Monica, the person that we have added to the team, it's alleviated so much for Stephanie and I. And I guarantee that we will massively increase our income. If nothing else, just our quality of life, by having her.
Yeah, absolutely. That can be crucial. I'm also just curious as well. What is difficult kind of about delegating?
In my mind, and I struggled with this when I had my first company. I was the best salesperson. I was the best marketer. I was the best this. If I didn't allow some, or if I gave it up, it wasn't going to be done properly. The reality is, it is true. I'm going to be the best realtor, in our group. I'm going to be this. I'm going to be the best of everything. In my mind, no one's going to do it exactly like me, but you know what? They can darn near try and duplicate my efforts. It took me years to learn that some people are not motivated by money. Some people are motivated by the little gold star that you put on their forehead or something like that. And I had to learn to work within those parameters and figure out people's disc. I didn't know anything about a disc test years ago. I didn't know anything about like love languages or anything like that. So over the years, I've learned these things, and then I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, no wonder they don't want to make 100,000 a month. That's not important to them. It's important to me, and it's nothing bad on them. It's just not important to them. They want the accolades, or they get fulfillment from something else, and that's totally cool. But I struggled so hard with that for such a long time. And I read a book that was life-changing years ago. And oddly enough, it was from a gentleman that owned a septic pumping company. The E-Myth by Michael Gerber. Life-changing book. The letter E and then the word myth. Amazing read.
So what was amazing and profound about the E-Myth?
It at that time, I was doing my real estate business, and I had what was called Pit Stop Portable Restrooms. So I had these two companies. When I started the porta potty company, at that time I was making probably $350-ish a year, selling real estate, and then all of my efforts went over here to start running this other business. Well, this $350 turned into about $25,000 a year, because I was putting so much effort over here, because I was not letting anyone control anything. The E-Myth taught me about systems and models and practices, and allowed me to understand, the business hierarchy of who should report to who. And I almost jokingly call it like in the mafia, you had your soldiers and your capos and everything else. And I went from working probably 70 hours a week running that company to maybe working 4 to 5 hours a week, and then going back into real estate and then increasing my efforts over there. So yeah, it was life-changing for me at that time.
Huh. That's interesting because at least it seems, someone normally think that, hey, you're not going to get something out of it if you're not going to put something into it. So you would think that if you're putting 70 hours into it, you would get much more in return. Whereas for you, you were putting in less hours, but yet still getting a good result.
For sure. Massive.
Yeah, absolutely. That's interesting. And you also talked about, setting up, the systems and the processes and understanding the hierarchy. What do you think a general process for real estate would be?
Well, I might be a little bit skewed just because I tend to primarily deal with listings. Every once in a while, I'll deal with the buyer side. So I'm very listing heavy at this point in my career, and that's entirely by design and by choice. The hierarchy now with Monica part of it, she's the one that has basically taken over the ordering of the staging, the order of repairs, the ordering of photography, all of the little minuscule things that I was having to deal with that were bogging me down with time. She handles that because my best effort is being in front of people. That's my gift. I'm a closer. I want to get belly to belly. Can I do all the other things? Sure, I can. Is it the best use of my time? No. So now we have the systems in place for her to handle that. On the buy side, I deal with maybe one a month. I'm just being honest with you. For me, it's like if I'm bored and I get a great referral from a buyer, I think it's fun because the buy side is always very, they're extremely appreciative. They're excited. There's lots of emotion. A lot of times on the seller side, they're pissed off they have to pay us. You're making how much? Why hasn't my house sold? But right now it seems like just about everything is selling in a heartbeat. So it's just a different experience. But I like what we have put in place. And are we 100% where we need to be on our systems? No. I've even allowed Monica to have some autonomy and say, hey, if you feel this is a better method of doing something, go for it. I don't need to sign off on everything. You're the one dealing with the back end stuff.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, that can be crucial because, it's one thing to just throw a bunch of things at the wall and just hope something sticks, but it's another thing to like you said, have a method or a process.
Yeah. At the beginning, I would throw anything against the wall, though. I mean, at the beginning of my career, I was only doing 15 to 18-ish or so a year, that's very manageable. I mean, at least I don't want to say this to impress anyone, but just to impress upon you, it's like I could handle 18 transactions by myself a month. It's like not a big deal. That could be overwhelming to some people, but it can be overwhelming handling that level of transactions month after month after month. After a while, I just want to crawl into a hole. So, you do have to have systems and some type of processes and definitely, for newer agents out there, hire a TC. Don't do the paperwork. I mean, that is the biggest waste of time. So
yeah, absolutely. So, the TC is the one kind of keeping you on track in terms of your scheduling. And is that what's being taken care of?
Not so much my scheduling. I handle all my own scheduling, but the TC is just dealing with all the minutia of the paperwork, HOA docs, repair amendments, title, survey, all of that minuscule stuff. I mean, honestly, once I turn it over to her, I don't even think about it. I mean, at this point, I have to remind myself, okay, where are we at with all that? And we have this very extensive spreadsheet that she has created, and I can just at a glance look at everything, and then also we track cash flow, and that's just from running my businesses. I mean, we had one of our businesses, we were billing $2.5 million a month, and we had $2.6 million a month of expenses. So we had to really learn how to deal with cash flow. So we're kind of robbing Peter to pay Paul some months.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. So I'm just curious as well, kind of reverting back to your previous businesses. You mentioned how you had the porta potty business. Are you catering, more to, I guess, to particular companies or construction sites, or where would you kind of service?
So for that particular business, it was entirely residential construction, followed up eventually with commercial construction. which is still very big here in town. And then special events. So you know how, have you heard of Fiesta, the big event that they have here? Okay, so
Sure.
Fiesta was like, we didn't sleep that month. It was just nuts. I mean, I remember being on the job till midnight, and then at 3 o'clock in the morning, we're in the King William district delivering 250 toilets over there.
Wow.
Yeah, it was nuts, but we're making insane amounts of money, during that time, because you're able to charge like 4 to 6 times your normal monthly revenue for one day. So massive, massive cash cow. Yeah.
Yeah, I would imagine. So for those of us who aren't familiar with San Antonio, what is Fiesta and what does it mean to the city?
Fiesta would be the equivalent of Mardi Gras, because that would be an easy comparison or analogy. Mardi Gras for New Orleans. I mean, however, it's with the Hispanic flair. Yeah, it's been years since I've gone to any Fiesta stuff, apart from working on it years ago when I was delivering the toilets. I don't drink. I'm not a drinker, and eating a chicken leg or turkey leg is not that important to me. But it's like I think they had bumped it up to 3 weeks straight of parties every single day from morning until night. Yeah, all kinds of craziness. So it's cool. I mean, it's fun. It's something fun for the city to do.
Sure, sure, absolutely. So I'm just curious as well. I know we kind of touched a bit about the economy in San Antonio. Could you kind of describe maybe the layout of the city, in particular neighborhoods that you're working in?
Sure. So because I've been doing this for such a long time, I pretty much work in a particular zone. So San Antonio is kind of like two hubs of a wheel, if you will. And centrally you've got your downtown area, and then all of the gentrification that's going on around downtown because of the Pearl. The Pearl is where the CIA is, not the government CIA, but the Culinary Institute of Arts. So San Antonio years ago was never like a big food hub. This is a big foodie town now because of the CIA. And because the Pearl opened that up, and then we have Hotel Emma, which is only one of two 5-star hotels here in Texas, it's transformed the downtown landscape. I mean, it is not uncommon to sell 400, 500, 600, $800,000 houses in the downtown area in particular, neighborhoods. I'm not saying that's going to go on everywhere, but Denver Heights, for example, is an area we do a lot of business in. 5 years ago, houses were selling for $40,000 there now. Now, a nice rehabbed house could be $350 there. New construction could be close to 400. You go to Lavaca. Last year, I sold a lot. I mean, a tiny lot for $275,000. Not even 10 years before that, that same lot sold for $1,000. So, we've seen massive increases of unaffordability here in San Antonio. From there, you've got your Terrell Hills, your Alamo Heights, which are all, staples of this area. The further up north you go, you've got your Stone Oak, you've got, the Dominion, where I started my career, which is where George Strait used to live, where David Robinson used to live. I mean, there's still lots of celebrity type people that live in there, business, titans of industry and stuff like that. When I started years ago, that was the luxury development. Man, there's tons of luxury developments here in San Antonio now. It's quite interesting to see the amount of upper end homes that are sold and available in this marketplace. It's definitely changed. It wasn't like that before.
Sure, absolutely. I'm just curious as well, given that you've been in San Antonio for so long, even going back to, when you first came from Laredo, what is it about San Antonio that's kind of been appealing to home buyers and investors?
So what I know, just because of being, having had investment properties as well, it's always like slow and steady wins the race here in San Antonio. San Antonio and Texas as a whole has always been very insulated from other parts of the country. So or I should say rewind, back in '08, I had bought a house in Riverside, California, because my buddy bought one next door. So I was like, okay, well, this is a great deal. Let's rehab them, blah, blah, blah. I can make, $400,000. Nope. The market turned, and like overnight, that house was half its value. So I had to hold on to it for about 7 years to get to the number that I paid for 7 years earlier. I just sold it like 4 years ago. Now I wish I would have kept it, because right now it'd probably be worth the number that I wish I would have sold it at. But San Antonio, whereas, Las Vegas, Miami, all of those places took 30 and 40% drops, San Antonio might have lost 3 to 6%, that year during that downtime. During this COVID stuff, 100%, there are markets in the United States that are not faring very well. I have friends that are in the East Coast and West Coast, and it's been a bloodbath, property value wise. I mean, look at what you hear about New York. I mean, $40 million properties are trending at $20 million, so, but the funny thing is now it's a value. So people with the money, they're still buying. Here, property values have like not stopped during this time. So instead of any stability, it's been this. Case in point, ourselves, we sold one of our personal houses in October of last year, and we were able to justify almost $50,000 more from 6 months earlier that we couldn't justify. That's massive.
Absolutely. It's, the market is hot, and I mean, you provided a lot of examples of that. Yeah, absolutely. So, how could you maybe compare San Antonio to, say, Dallas, Fort Worth, Houston, and Austin comparatively, like the real estate markets?
Austin might as well be LA. I know that. The Austin market is white hot, but it's definitely driven by tech. I mean, think about it. Elon just moved there. I'm sure pricing just went up because of that. The Dallas market, I don't know the Dallas market too terribly well. I did live in Houston for about 3.5 years while I was opening up another company over there. So even though I wasn't in real estate at that time, I was running a garbage company that we had. I would, of course, inevitably go look at homes. And Houston is very much driven by the oil industry, whereas San Antonio is primarily tourism. However, there's been a huge uptick in companies coming into this area. So out of those three metropolitan, not counting San Antonio, out of those three metropolitan centers, San Antonio really is the most affordable, hands down. You will not get what you could purchase here in Houston, Dallas, or definitely Austin for that matter. Yeah. We have some people that are deciding against Austin and just coming to San Antonio, and they'll just, commute back and forth because it's not that bad of a drive depending on where in Austin you have to be.
Yeah, absolutely. It's, you can definitely see it along that I-35 corridor, even driving from North San Antonio to South Austin, there's so much growth there.
Yeah, for sure. It's nuts. Eventually, I'm sure it's going to connect.
In a way, it already kind of is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So, for you, in terms of, what you're looking for, what are you looking for in your business and in real estate?
Always growth. That's just a given, but we are really wanting to show more and more value to our clients. It's so easy to get a license. And unfortunately, I think the misconception that clients have is, well, Johnny Joe has a license and Billy Bob has a license. They're the same, but maybe Billy Bob's been doing it for 100 years and he's got 500,000 transactions. And this other guy has got one transaction. Who's going to have the better conversations? Who's going to be the better negotiator? Who's going to have the better marketing, market knowledge, et cetera? Well, clearly this person over here. But what I've noticed lately is a lot of clients say, oh, my niece got her license, so I'm just going to hire her. And then they're really upset because the niece can't perform. Why I'm not getting showings, or it's not marketing, or it's not this. They come up with all these excuses, and there definitely is a need. I feel there definitely is a need for a level of professionalism within this industry that would, almost just. I think that like newer agents should definitely join a team. That's just me. That's my thinking. Because at least they can, hopefully picking a good team, they will learn all the proper things they need to do to be successful. I want everyone to succeed. There's plenty of business for all of us here. I'm not saying that people need to exit so there could be more business for me or the other high producing agents. There's plenty for everyone. But I would wish that these younger agents that don't practice a level of professionalism would just learn a different way of doing the business, the best way to do the business. Because it's an amazing career. I mean, it really, really is. But I hate it when it gets tarnished by lack of professionalism. I mean, come on, how do you react when you see an agent with a $700,000 listing and they use cell phone pictures? I mean, come on, invest in your company. I
Yeah.
mean, when we get a $1 million listing, we're out $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 the first week in marketing expenses because I'm investing into your house and my company. I have an image. It just is what it is.
Yeah, absolutely. Aside from, that professionalism with the pictures, right? If you have that 700K listing, if you could send a PSA maybe to younger agents or even just younger people who are looking to get into the industry, what would you tell them to kind of encourage them to maintain that professionalism that you're talking about?
At the end of the day, it becomes their brand. And, this is a business. We're not realtors. I mean, on paper, yes, we're realtors, but we're running a little mini business. And you just have to take pride in your storefront, and I do. I mean, I will not take a vacant houses don't exist in my inventory. I'll stage them, I'll invest because it's like, I want people to walk in and initially and emotionally connect with the property, and that way they can see little Jimmy playing in the corner or throwing the football in the back, or mom and dad cooking in the kitchen, or hanging out in the living room or something like that. We do the same with our videos. I mean, videos are huge. I don't like Matterports. While I think they're cool, I don't really subscribe to them. I love videos, and we're in the process of even like doing 4 times the amount of videos. That's like one of our big goals for this year, is adding way more video content than we already do have. I mean, we have several 100,000 views. I mean, I think it's up to like 400,000 views on our YouTube channel. Now I'm trying to elevate that and kind of change the game so we can be of value. I want our information to be like a destination for people looking to move to San Antonio. So I just want to give more and more value to people.
Absolutely. So more kind of interactive videos, or kind of just something more informative?
More informative. I mean, we have a ton of listing videos, so that's not going to change. We started doing like some little 60-second trailers of either myself or Stephanie talking, introducing houses, just to kind of catch a different emotion, I guess, if you will. And it's worked. I mean, anytime we post one of those videos, we'll easily get 1,000 views within the first few hours, and like all this interaction. But we want to start creating more informative videos about San Antonio. I'm just trying to honestly pin down something that's not typically talked about, because, 5 reasons to move to San Antonio. Okay, well, there's 50 other people that have posted that too. I'm trying to just think of something different outside of the box. I haven't succeeded yet. So maybe you'll be the first to know when I do come up with something.
Absolutely. No, I'm looking forward to it, Robert. It's going to be good, whatever it is.
Cool.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, especially because you've been around for so long, you've seen different, different parts of the industry, a lot of the twists and turns that the market has taken. So I know whatever it is will be good.
It better be.
It has to be.
I only see upside. I'm the eternal optimist.
Okay, absolutely. And I mean, is there anything you haven't said thus far that you'd really just like to hammer home?
It's one of the most amazing businesses to ever be in. And again, it took me having all of these other business ventures for me to come full circle and re-embrace real estate and the love that I have for real estate, and just meeting people and the friendships that I've created, to realize this is a fun business. It really is fun. It's as fun as you want to make it. And it's limitless. And especially now with technology, I mean, what Stephanie and I, we didn't do it last year, but we'll typically go to Mexico anywhere from 6 to 8 times a year. We can work while we're there. You open up your laptop, things are so much different today than they were when I started. When I started, I was walking around with 2 cell phones. Actually, I had 3. I had a Ford Expedition at the time, and I had a laptop built into, like, on a Lazy Susan. And then I had a StarTAC Motorola that would be my dialer for that, so I could check email, because of course phones didn't have email then. I had a printer all the way in the back so I could print stuff, while I was out in the field. And then I had a phone call for outgoing calls, and I had a phone call for incoming calls, because I think, if I remember correctly, if you were on a phone call, it was going to immediately go to voicemail. And that's like how much of a dinosaur I am. And so I'd walk around like, you know, Tim the Tool Man kind of with all this stuff. Now with freaking technology, dude, this is easy. It's like walk in the park. It's like we just walk around with our cell phones and do everything from it. I mean, I don't even carry my laptop with me most of the time. So
Yeah. No,
I would say if realtors, future realtors need to, one, understand it's a lot of work. It is not as easy as TV makes it out to be, but it could be one of the most fulfilling and satisfying careers you could ever choose.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And, a lot has changed, I guess, maybe since when you first started out kind of making this transition into the new digital age.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely, Robert. Well, maybe someone wants to get in touch with you, where can we find you?
So our handle is at the RoPax Group. That's where you can find us on Insta. My personal Insta is Robert Elder Luxury Realtor. My mobile number is 210-260-0682. Or you can just Google Robert Elder Realtor. You can find me that way. Our YouTube channel is the RoPax Group also. So yeah, we got tons of stuff on there. I think I'm pretty easy to find.
Fair enough, Robert. Well, I really learned a lot, not only about you, what you do and the services you offer, a lot about San Antonio, and it's been great having you on the show. So thank you so much.
I appreciate it so much. Thank you. Hope I was able to help someone out there that's just getting into the business or maybe struggling with something.
Absolutely. Talk to you soon, Robert.